Thank you. So to begin with, I would like to hear from each one of you, beginning from you, Mr. Salati. How would you describe the Zambian fintech and digital transformation from the vantage point of your area of business? And what lies ahead to leapfrog Zambia in its digital transformation agenda?
Okay, thank you so much. Just to give everyone a flavor of who the firm I represent is. Mlenga Mundashi Legal Practitioners is a firm that was established in 1999. It is now a full-service law firm that provides corporate advice. It's generally a full-service law firm, and I head up the corporate, commercial, and financial side of that business. Now, based on my portfolio and my experience in the industry, it's been quite encouraging over the past 10 years to see how Zambia has developed its laws and regulations to catch up with what the rest of the world is doing, but not only that, to catch up with the fast-paced level at which business has advanced, especially in the fintech industry. As of 2009, we had an Electronic Communications Transactions Act and the National Payment Systems Act. Those acts, the National Payment Systems Act in particular, assisted with facilitation, and still is focused on facilitation of payment systems. In terms of development, we now see that the Electronic Communications Transactions Act, that was of 2009, has been repealed and replaced by the Electronic Communications Transaction Act of 2021. Why is this important? It is important because the Electronic Communications Transaction Act housed cyber technology security and also data protection provisions in one single act. But what government has done is progress this and divided it into two further acts, the Data Protections Act and the Cyber Security Act. Those are the developments we have seen in the area. To that extent, in as much as they've been positives, the slight negative and complaint is the barrier for fintech companies that are about to start up, especially for those that looking into participating in the facilitation of payment systems. The difficulty for them lies in the time periods associated with registration of their businesses through the Bank of Zambia. We understand and appreciate that as a regulator, the Bank of Zambia is focused on ensuring proper procedures, shareholding structures, and that the right and proper individuals are operating in this space. However, the negative effect is that you have a situation where entry into takes at least 6 months. Therefore, investment area, it discourages investment in the area, and even if it is set aside for some type of business, the value of capital into the business is diminished by the time an entity is registered and starts to do business in Zambia. Therefore, the laws are robust, but the time periods for registration are one aspect we should really consider looking at to improve our capabilities in the area. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So, yeah, I think within the fintech space, I think the foundational layer for anything is a real-time payment system in a country, combined with an engaged regulator. And I think that in Zambia, we are very fortunate to now have both of those. We've always had the engaged regulator, but with the introduction of the NFS, we now have that ability to real-time move money from any institution to another institution at real time and at low costs. And it's something that I think we will start seeing more and more. I think our customer prices in that space are still quite high, but I think that's going to change in the coming years. I think we heard the governor earlier mention about digital identity. I think that's another space that we will see a lot of engagement and involvement in. I think with the new AI tools that are out there, the ability to validate liveliness through digital channels, the ability to validate uniqueness, and the ability to verify documents are things that can definitely be done. Having a centralized government database that you can then validate that information against, I think is another key piece to the puzzle. I think as Chipper, what we're trying to do is connect our consumers in Africa to global opportunities. And I think that's the next lever is how can you take your Zambian kwacha and get investments in stocks in Apple or in different investment opportunities that are out there. I think we heard earlier about PAPS. I think intra-Africa trade is really going to start driving. We've got to be able to digitize that and make it easy and make it low cost, and not just for high-value transactions, but for low-value transactions. And I think that's what we would hope to see in the coming years as Zambia, to really be able to kind of make sure we can digitize that and be at the cusp of the innovations in that space.
Thank you, Brett. And I think looking at, you're the founder of Zona. From when Zona started to now, I'm sure you're one of the people that is now happy to have such developments, because this is what you've been fighting for a very long time. Yeah. Thank you for that. Chilufia, over to you.
Okay. From my perspective, cash was king for a very long time, and we're happy to note the emergence and the tremendous exponential growth of mobile money in Zambia. That has really accelerated the digital transformation. And as Premier Credit, we've tapped into this opportunity by partnering with the mobile money players in this space to help our companies scale, to provide easy access to financial services, even to the last mile. What opportunities we see that can leapfrog this digital transformation is open banking. We believe when we adopt open banking in this Zambian landscape, it becomes easier for more players to come into Zambia, more foreign investment deployed into Zambia, and more emerging innovators creating innovation solutions using AI, machine learning, and different kinds of technologies that then allow us to provide a customer-centric solution that solves the problem that we currently have, which is financial inclusion.
Awesome. Thank you.
I'm coming from a professional regulatory body, which is responsible for the professional conduct of all ICT people in Zambia. And when we talk of all ICT people, these are the people who are behind, creation of these innovations and behind the digital transformation. So what we've seen in the past 10 years, because we've been in existence for more than 20 years, though we existed as Computer South of Zambia, but now we are the ICT Association of Zambia. So we've seen the exponential growth of digital activities in Zambia, and this just shows how enabling environment has been created by the government of Zambia. So ours is to ensure that we ensure that there is professionalism and upholding of high level of integrity, even as we embark on digital transformation. So one of the things that we've been doing as an association is to ensure that we hold collaborative activities with different stakeholders. I think last year we had a Fintech Expo where we partnered with Payment Association of Zambia, and I'm glad to say that we saw about 50 exhibitors coming on board, and most of them are fintech dealers. And as we started like 3 years ago, we never had any corporate member on our database. Today, I'm glad to report that we have almost 100 registered corporate members. Most of them are startups and dealing in fintechs. So we'll continue as an association to ensure that we work with the government to create this enabling environment to attract more, and also creation of awareness on financial literacy, so that we ensure growth of this digital transformation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Clement. And I think also just to mention to the audience, if you look at where the ICTAS has come from Computer Society of Zambia, I remember back in the days in 2007, for you to work in an ICT institution, you would have to be a member. So I hope all the IT experts in this room have paid their ICTAS membership. Over to you, Vincent.
Thank you. So from our point of view as MasterCard, what we've seen is with the COVID pandemic, two things have happened. The first one, obviously, the fact that the the digital divide has widened from the way it was before the pandemic. But the good thing that we see from COVID is the fact that we have seen acceleration in adopting new payment methods. So a lot of people have adopted newer payment methods that they never used to adopt. I'll just give you a number, which is not specifically for the Zambian market, but obviously from South Africa, which I think is not far removed from our experiences here. So what we saw is that 95% of consumers in South Africa used an emerging payment method in 2022. And that's very close to what we think has obtained in the market, like our own in Zambia here. And in terms of what lies ahead, how can we leapfrog technologies and just trying to see how we can push beyond the boundaries. What we see as critical is, number one, we need to embrace open banking, like Chirufya said. It's critical, and I think it's a catalyst for fintechs to have open banking. The second thing that is critical is to embrace new technologies like AI, with a lot of focus on security, because a lot of people are nervous when it comes to technology. So if we can use, we can harness the power of AI to make sure that it secures the transactions. And also, we need to make sure that we use this technology to make sure that we deliver our services, these digital solution financial services, to every part of the country, not just the urban areas, because most of the times, these services are only available in the urban areas. Thank you.
Thank you, Vincent. Over to you, Jimmy.
Thank you, Chilekwa. To sum it up, what I would say is Zambia has made quite good progress in the digital transformation agenda. If you look just at last year, we had about 11.2 million active users of mobile money. If you compare with where we're coming from, that's quite some good progress. And in terms of what we expect to see, I think it's more collaboration between the financial service providers, the fintechs, as well as the traditional financial service players. What we really hope to see, and the focus that we have for this year in terms of digital financial services, we have seen more people adopt digital financial services, but are we seeing these being used in the corner store? So more merchant acceptance so that people do not have to cash out, and we see more use of digital financial services at individual level as well as in the shops and other businesses.
I actually like that the regulator spoke last, because your summary eats into what the rest of the panel should be doing. So that was a very good point. And if I add on to the next question, which is addressed to you, Jimmy, the Bank of Zambia plays a big role in Zambia's payment infrastructure and greater economic growth. And in this, we also understand that the payment system is a vast department. But what's the payment system's role in driving Zambia's financial technology industry?
For us as Bank of Zambia, we are the regulator. We regulate commercial banks, we regulate fintechs, and the non-bank entities. So first of all, before you start offering any payment services, you must obtain a license from the Bank of Zambia. That's our regulatory role for normal financial service providers, as well as the new kids on the block, the new fintechs, who license you. So the message there is you can't operate or offer payment services unless you are licensed by the Bank of Zambia or you have an approval under regulatory sandbox that our governor referred to. Once you are licensed, then we'll start being overseen by the Bank of Zambia. We oversee you, whether it's on-site inspection when we come to your entity and we see what you're doing, or through off-site reports that we obtain from such entities. Another key role that we play is a catalytic role in terms of initiatives. We spoke about the National Financial Switch in Governor's speech. Those are initiatives that we promote as the Bank of Zambia, whether it's the National Financial Switch, the adoption of digital financial services, the ISO 222 that we have just spoken about. Those are catalytic roles that we play One final point I can just mention, as a Bank of Zambia also, we are the operator of the real-time gross settlement system. This sits at the apex of high-value payment systems. Our role there is to operate these payment systems and that meet those participants and to play a role in that payment system.
You've heard it from the regulator, ladies and gentlemen. So for the startups, please ensure that you have all your paperwork before you go and visit the Central Bank of Zambia. Regulation is a very big issue in our country, and I think it also goes for Africa, the rest of Africa. This question goes to Clement and Chipili. Digital transformation often requires regulatory flexibility and strong oversight. How is the regulatory framework of Zambia changing with the digital age, and what work is being done to allow regulation to foster innovation?
Okay, thank you very much, Chilekwa, for that question. So, yes, like you had rightly put it, ICTAS is a regulatory body, but I know most of the time people are confusing us with ZICTA. So first, let me start by clarifying that we're professional regulators. Our interests are people working, behind those innovations and digital transformation. Mm-hmm. So as ICTAS, though we accept that as a regulatory association, we have to create a safe, playing field with all innovators through regulations. But even as we are doing that, because most of the time when people, hear regulations, they get scared or they see penalties. But as a professional regulatory body, ours is to ensure, like I said, that there is professionalism even as we are doing these, activities. And to ensure that people stop doubting on whenever they hear of ICT. Because sometimes, people link us a lot to, people behind these hacking and other things. So as regulators, we have a role to play to ensure that we create things like code of conduct, which is a document that governs, the expected behavior of all ICT professionals, even as they do these innovations. And also, as an association, we thought about this critically and ensure that it's high time we moved from more of regulations, but also do it with value addition. And in this, what are we doing? I'm sure you agree with me that for the past 12 months, we've held more than 5 activities, exhibitions, where we've ensured that we invite the startups and different corporate institutions so that we have that chat and discuss these regulations and what should be changed and put in place to ensure that we help them exist. Thank you.
And so before you come in, Chipili, I think when it comes to regulation, and which goes into what you just said, the most biggest challenge that we often hear, I mean, we all do it once in a while, where you feel like, okay, the policies around regulation are too stringent. But then when you look at, and this is what speaks into what Jimmy mentioned in terms of the Cybersecurity Act and all these fraudsters, right? Without regulation, then we are all prone to being defrauded. And especially with the move towards AI, that is becoming a danger. I'm going to throw this one back at you again, Clement. When you look at AI, and the frenzy around is that AI is replacing people's jobs. What is your opinion on that matter? Because you fall under the ICT Association, and when people look at technology, they are almost susceptible to the change. Like they don't want to go deep dive into technology.
Thank you, Chilekwa. I think to start with, when we talk of technology, there is no way we can run from it. When it drifts you from one side to the other, you have to move with it. And unfortunately, where we are now, AI has come. And, I agree with you that we've been hearing a lot of people saying AI is here to take jobs, which I totally disagree. It will take jobs for those people who have nothing to do with it. But if we have everything to do it, then we are going to work with it. So we have to embrace it, but I'm also happy that the minister is here. Maybe it's one thing that we should consider, that we also need to create regulations to guide the use of AI. Thank you very much.
Over to you.
Yeah, if you could just repeat the question, I think.
Okay, no problem. So the question was, how is the regulatory framework of Zambia changing with the digital age, and what work is being done to allow regulation to foster innovation?
Okay, thank you so much. Like I mentioned before, as a country, we've adapted quite quickly to the changes that have been happening. I think as we speak, Bank of Zambia has called for comments on the existing National Payment Systems Bill, going to upgrade and enhance the functioning of the, I believe is going to repeal the existing act, which was from 2007, enhance its operation and harmonize with the new Data Protection Act, Cybersecurity Act, and the new Electronic Communications Transactions Act. So to that extent, we have been moving quite quickly to and not playing catch up all the time. I think the main issue, well, the other positive is that when you look at payment systems, there is regulation that is not over-regulation, allowing companies to do business. That is the experience I have had from the clients that I service in that industry. So once you obtain your license, your ability to do business is not hindered by over-reporting, like you'd experience in other countries. And for banks, I would say, there are arguments to say, do we then increase the reporting requirements to match that of regular banking institutions or deposit-taking institutions? I would say that would stifle the ability to transact quickly, and focus is then veered from doing real commercial work and dealing with compliance issues. Like I mentioned before, the only complaint I have received, the biggest one in the industry, is the time it takes to obtain a license. The Act requires a 180-day period. That's 6 months for assessment of an application. And as I mentioned before, the difficulty that comes with it is capital has been organized and set aside to do this business. And by the time you get your license, you've gone into almost a year. So the capital that was allocated for doing business essentially loses value during that time. There is great appreciation, of course, for the robust structures involved during the review of the application process. But I think that is something to consider and look at from Jimmy and the team there. Another one, which will be a bit controversial, especially in the comment I'll make, which is controversial in the payment systems space in particular, is the reaction to when an entity is found to not operate with a license. Now, I must be clear here that I'm not advocating non-compliance and lawlessness, but at the level we have reached now, the level of interest into Zambia is quite high based on the transactions that I've participated in. And for whatever reason, you find that out of 10 entities that come into play in the market in Zambia, 6 come in and start operating without a license, which is wrong. However, my point is that if these entities have made significant investment into Zambia, we should look at ways of allowing them to continue doing business, or provide an alternative which looks to providing a temporal license as they put their house in order to allow commerce to continue without giving away confidential information. There are circumstances, even currently, where you have 2 or 3 entities that have pumped in $3, $4, $5 million into Zambian banks, and maybe that's one entity, and then their accounts frozen and business stopped immediately, and it has a ripple effect. And I know in particular that we are open to do business and we welcome forex into the country, but if you stop them doing business immediately, it has a ripple effect. So maybe a consideration towards a time period where, if an entity is found to not operating with a license, they are given a short window to provide all necessary documentation in order to regularize their business, and we hold on to much needed forex.
Thank you for that.
May I just respond for that?
Yeah.
Thank you,
Sure.
Chileko.
Please go ahead.
Yeah. From a legal perspective, I think when you're serving your customers, it's important as you engage with your customers, you explain to them what the legal requirements are. The challenge that would happen with that would be now, what message would we be sending if we allow entities that are already breaching the law to continue operating like that? If you remember last year about December, through the Office of the Deputy Governor Operations, we did actually give an amnesty period where we instructed those entities who may be operating without a license to normalize their position. So those entities that missed that chance, unfortunately that time has gone. And it's important that as the people that are speaking to these entities, as a legal firm, you send that message that when you come into this country, you have to play by the book. If we were to give two schemes, what would happen to Brett, who is having a license, and another entity that doesn't have a license? So it's important that everybody really plays by the book. And we really hope that you carry that message along. And in terms of the time that it takes for processing of the license, if you submit all the information that is required, the law gives 90 days. However, you may have times when it goes over that period, and really where the challenge is, if there's some missing information, then we really have to get the complete application before we can process. But we can proceed and engage further on those points.
Just one topic I also want to add on this. So I was actually on the Bank of Zambia website the other day, and I think there are now like 47 or 48 registered payment services businesses in Zambia. And if you look across the continent, I would argue that could be one of the highest non-bank registered or licensed entities on the continent. So it might take a bit of time, and trust me, I feel your pain. I'm an entrepreneur. We want things to move quickly. But the Bank of Zambia give very clear insights on what is needed. And if you supply that information, our experiences and the 47 registered entities are that they generally will go through that process quite quickly. And I do think, as we all know, we're dealing with people's money. We need to have the controls. We need to have that protection. And we need to have some form of regulation that's governing entities like this.
Okay, thank you so much. This has been
Can
an awesome...
a quick response?
Okay.
A very quick one.
In 2 seconds. So we will have to wrap up, unfortunately. Thank you so much, everyone, for making it. We value your time, and we also value the minister's time. So just your last words in a line, so starting from Jimmy. Any advice to the audience or the ecosystem?
Yeah, I think we have made very good progress. Let's ensure that we continue on the gains that we have made. Let's watch out for those emerging risks, things like DFS frauds. Let's make sure our customers are aware of they have the right digital skills to be able to securely perform the DFS. Thank you.
Thank you, Vincent.
I think we need to embrace the digital payment platforms, the newer ones, the emerging ones, and we need to make sure that we don't shy away from the use of AI, open banking, and we need to incorporate a lot of all these into our product construct. That's what I would say. Thank you.
Clement?
From our side, we also just want to encourage everyone to embrace this digital transformation and ensure that we create as much innovations as we can, and mostly also we work with the government to ensure that even as we do it, we observe regulations. As ICTAs also, we are inviting all the people who are planning to come to first, just as they obtain regulations and comply with the central bank and these others, they shouldn't forget also to come to the professional body. Thank you.
Thank you. Chilofea.
I'd like to re-echo what I mentioned earlier around open banking, and my appeal to ecosystem builders the banks, the mobile network operators, please embrace open banking. This brings about a lot of innovations coming through in this space. And when you have more innovation, you have more competition. With more competition, it brings about healthier product and service offering that are more focused on the customer, that become affordable. So when you have very few players on this space, the price is managed by them and it becomes expensive for the consumers. Currently, and I'll be open with this, it's very expensive for most of the unbanked to use mobile money because of the price. But when you have more players offering these services, naturally the market will demand that the price becomes more affordable and the consumers benefit. You have more people being onboarded onto these platforms because it's easy for them to use and most importantly, affordable for them to use.
Thank you. Brett?
So yeah, I think from my side, change is real. It is always happening. Embrace it. I think we've laid a great digital foundation in Zambia. I'm just excited to see new innovative businesses coming up, whether it's doing micro lending, whether it's doing micro saving, whatever it might be. I think it's just exciting to see all that happening. And one point I'd put out there is request to pay is expensive in Zambia. And I think that's an area that we also need to dig into. I think it's impacting our ability to get merchant payments happening. It's impacting the ability to get person-to-businesses payments happening. So an area we would like to, that I think we should be looking at and would love to see that actually starting to route via NFS in time.
Thank you.
Thank you. A lot of progress has been made in an ever-changing environment where today is very different from tomorrow. We've adapted very well with the laws that are being put into place. It is very clear what is expected of everyone. Just to say that 10 years ago, incorporating a company would take you 7 days. Today, it takes you 48 hours. So in the same way, 3 months, I still believe if heads are put together, can still be reduced for the purpose of ease of business and attracting further investment. The interest in Zambia is very high from a fintech perspective, and we should really take advantage, strike while the iron is hot, and make it easier for people to come into Zambia and do business. Thank you.
Okay, thank you everyone, and thank you for listening. I'll hand it over to our moderator.